We had several people ask about the next step for the peyote with a twist knot crochet bracelet that I posted directions for how to do a zip connection, and several people asked for okay, what do you do next? So I promised that I would try and put together a video. If you didn't see video 1, this is the bracelet that I show in the first video, and you can feel free to learn how to do that, but I'll show you the next steps on here. So assuming that you've watched the first video, you've made your zip connection, so here's where we are. You're going to tighten that up and pass through the white bead, and then we're simply going to peyote up this side with the white beads. So I know it's not real exciting watching somebody else bead, or at least I don't think it's real exciting, but we're just going to add those white beads until we get to the end of the row. Okay, and now we're going to be coming out of that metallic, that silver bead, and so we want to work back down the row. Now this is where you're going to have to just use your eyeballs and your brain a little bit, because you can see the beads are stacking in rows. Okay, so the next bead up here would be a silver bead, but that's not the bead we're adding. We're actually going to be adding the bead next to it. So I'm going to pick up a white bead and head back down that peyote row. Okay, so that's our next bead, and then we're just going to continue on with the white beads until we get close to the end of the row, and then I think it'll be pretty obvious what you're going to do next. I have not written a pattern for this. That's really not my strong suit. You know, down the road when I eventually retire, that might be a thing for me, but it's just not something that I can do at this time in my life. Okay, so here we are at the end of this row. I have one more bead to add, and you can see if I add a white bead on here, I'm going to make a mistake so you can see it. If I do that and pass down, back down through that silver bead, whoops, I bumped the camera. See what happens? Okay, that's obviously a mistake, so that's not what we're going to do. We have to pick up a metallic bead. This poor thread, I have worked and reworked this, I don't know, a gajillion times, and my poor thread is starting to get a little frayed. Okay, so do you see how that makes sense now? Because it's going to stack right on top of the silver one. Then I'm going to pass through the colored bead that's next to it, and then back through that silver bead. Okay, so now what's going to come next? If I stack a white bead on there, that's not going to work. It needs to be that silver bead. And the more you work with this pattern, it'll start to become very obvious. See? And then you're just going to work another white one. I'll work this another row so you can see where the color is going to come into, because that's really it's where the colors change that is probably the most challenging. And if you can work through that, this really does become a pattern that you really, I don't know, for me, I really didn't have to pay attention to it a whole lot until I got to a section where I was dealing with the color change. Okay, so you saw I turned the corner. I'm now working back down. I'm going to pull that bead a little tighter, get my tension. There we go. Okay, so here I am. I'm back down here. So what bead needs to go next? Yep, it needs to be that silver bead. So whenever you get ready to pass into another color, that should trigger, oh, I need to pay attention. Okay, so now what goes underneath? Well, it's not going to be a silver because there's only one of those, one line of those, so it needs to be a colored bead. For me, the most difficult thing about this pattern is trying to make it look random. It's like, oh, I just picked up that color, so I don't know. I'm a little type A and a little controlling probably. So I struggle with that. So okay, I turned and now I'm headed back up, so you can see I'm coming out of that colored bead. I'm going to be passing into the silver, so obviously it needs to be another colored bead in there. Okay, and then of course the next one will be the silver. Okay, hopefully this is making sense, and it's just a matter of training your brain and your eye to see it. And once it clicks, I think I should say, if you're visual like me, I know not everyone is a visual person. I am extremely visual, so if I can see it and it makes sense to me, then I'm good to go. Okay, so you can see how the pattern is working and how it has kind of, I like to call it that slow, lazy twist instead of that tighter twist. And I hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, feel free to message me. I'll do the best that I can to answer those questions for you. And I hope this helped. All right, thanks.